affecting an estimated 1 in 4 homes across northern Europe. Experts are calling it a silent epidemic. Mold, not on my watch. Introducing the new mold.
The spore's patient, it waits, sometimes for years, for the one thing it needs. Not warmth, not darkness, but water that cannot leave.
Well, I guess I can't run from it. We found mold. But first, a quick little recap. We, that's my wife, our little son, and myself, bought a 125-year-old house in the Swedish countryside, with the goal to turn it into a lovely holiday home for us and our families, but also a lucrative Airbnb. But to get to that point, it's going to take a lot of blood, sweat and tears, a lot of work. A lot of figuring stuff out because we haven't really learned any of this. This is the biggest project we ever took on. And we're gonna figure things out as we're going along. In the first episode, we showed you the property and gave you a tour through the house. We also started renovating the living room, unearthing a beautiful old wooden floor that we are most definitely planning to restore, and hope we would find something equally nice in the other rooms, but we weren't quite so lucky. We found mold. And not just a bit, a lot of it. In every room except the living room. But let's start where we left off in episode 1. Here's past me, still young and naive, still blissfully unaware of the horrors to come, still full of hopes and dreams, thinking it will be as easy as it was in the living room. Still thinking I just pull out the old PVC, unearth the solid wood floor, sand and oil everything and be done with it. Oh, how wrong I was. This is episode 2 of renovating our small Swedish top. The mold problem. We initially weren't quite sure how much we wanted to remove from the kitchen, but the house decided for us. Almost all of it. A building site like this makes you decisive even though you're not 100% sure what you're doing and would normally maybe take some more time to deliberate. And that's also when the realization kicks in that this is your house and for the first time nobody else is going to make the decisions and it's really high time to step up.
Nice. Always great to find exposed live wire where there's also water. Amazing.
I got a bit carried away here and didn't film it, but as you can see, I also decided to remove everything from the walls as well. I just had to get out the old. I wanted no more wet, no more moldy parts inside the house. But let's take a moment and talk about why we have mold in the first place. You see, old houses like this are designed to be able to breathe. As you can see here, the foundations are open to the earth, meaning we have moisture, always. And that's fine because the house is designed to be able to breathe. As you can see here, the foundations have vents, making it possible. Especially in the winter time when the hot wood stove would draw in the cold air through said vents, putting the moisture with it through the floorboards and out through the chimney. But what happens when you one day decide that wood floors aren't it anymore and cover them up with a layer of plastic? Well, as you can see in our case, you change the whole dynamic of the house. The moisture all of a sudden gets stuck here, trapping it in the floorboards first and later in the wooden beams, where they start to rot away, which leads to the collapse of the whole subfloor structure and burying in the ventilation shafts as well. After I removed everything that covered the floorboard, I opened up the floor at 2 points to really get a grasp on how bad the situation was, and it was bad. This isn't just a little bit wet, this is wet. I decided right then and there that basically everything had to go, so cue the demolition montage.
choices.
After everything wet or rotten was removed, it was finally time to build something again. This really felt like a turning point. Out with the old, in with the new. While building up the new substructure, I found some bones and was curious why they were in the foundation, and so I googled it. Turns out that finding animal bones in an old foundation is quite common in Scandinavia. Apparently, it was not unusual to bury, for example, a dead cat in a foundation, a bit like a building sacrifice or offering, so that the spirit of the cat would then keep away mice and other crawlers. Sometimes it wasn't bones that were left behind, sometimes it was tools or pottery. Of course, it could also just be from a small animal that somehow got into the foundation on its own and then found its untimely end there. Who knows? Either way, I'm putting the bones back to where I found them. I'm not gonna lie, at first it was quite frustrating to find the mold, to realize that I would have to take everything out and build everything new. But it's also an opportunity to really get to know your house, and in this case also make it possible to have our kitchen sink where we initially wanted it. This is only possible because now I can put the wastewater pipes under the floorboards. Now that the pipes are roughly into place, I can start leveling out and fixating the subflooring structure I built. With the pipes in place, I could also make sure that the ventilation openings won't cave in again by just fixing a board over them. Of course, I also had to test whether the pipes were sealed shut or if there was any leakage. Off camera, I also installed those support beams between the studs, so the breathable but windproof membrane I'm going to put in there can lie on something. The reason I chose this material is so that the house regains its breathability, while also protecting the interior from moisture and wind. Now that everything is sealed, it's time to fill it in.
Bist du bereit? Bist du bereit?
Of course, the filling is insulation as well as noise reduction. For the filling, we choose the traditional and frankly cheap option, sawdust and shavings. Remember the animal bones offering? We wanted to make something similar but a bit less macabre. So we decided to put some protection runes on a stone and leave it in the subfloor structure. We are in Scandinavia after all.
Meinst du mit? Oder ist es schon? Leg ihn nochmal in das Fach. Super!
And then, after what should have been a few days of restoring the old floors that turned into weeks, making everything new, it was finally time for a new floor. For that we found a very good deal of massive wooden boards that were classified as economy wear, meaning there were some cracks and some more knots, but they were also relatively cheap, so we gladly took them. Here I'm going to leave space all around, so the wood has a bit of room to expand and to live without the floor squeaking or even worse, cracking under the pressure. Oh, and well, excuse the lack of t-shirts in the next clip. These were the hottest days of the year and I just couldn't be bothered. course, sometimes you have to get a bit creative and use your monkey feet to make things work.
Bist du ein Affe?
Here I am removing the lower part of the groove for the last floorboard so I can fit it under the baseboards. That's also the reason I cut the last board in half. I'm sure there's a better way to do this, and if you know it, please let me know in the comments. In the kitchen and bath, I had to do some more cutouts so everything would fit. Of course, this spot instantly fit, and I didn't have to try some very questionable methods to make it try and fit that you definitely shouldn't try at home. Well, no, it didn't fit. I had to make it new, but that happens. In the moment though, I was so frustrated that I just kept going and didn't film anymore until the whole flooring was installed. Now we have to prepare the floors for sanding, especially the old one in the living room. We remove all the dirt in the grooves and then make sure that no old nails are peeking out and damage the floor sander. We got really lucky here and had a good friend lend us his machine, which made sanding the floors that much easier and so much faster. Now, everything that was left was oiling the floor and finally finishing it.